This is we're collaborating.
Hey everybody, it's Kaz with Voter Choice Arizona. We're going live for the first time ever here on Instagram. We're here with Rick Hubbard with Walking to Fix Our Democracy and Krista Potenza from our outreach and speakers teams. I'm going to switch camera views and switch over to that in just a moment. But we're out here at the Phoenix Pizza Festival, talking to people about ranked choice voting. Some of our volunteers are out in the background. You can see chatting with passerbys about ranked choice voting, trying to bring them into our fold. So I'll just switch it over to our rear camera and turn it over to Rick Hubbard with Walking to Fix Our Democracy. All right, so you guys are on live on Instagram.
Hello out there, all you folks that are going to enjoy Pizza Fest. If you're interested, we're going to talk a little bit about why we citizens need to fix our democracy in America to make it work better for all of us. And then people from Arizona are going to talk a little bit about a ranked choice open ballot initiative. My name is Rick Hubbard, and I'm here to talk about an important opportunity that Arizonans are going to have to improve Arizona's primary and general election process to better serve your and our interests rather than just the interests of the major political parties. I'm involved with Walking to Fix Our Democracy. It's a walk across America at the rate of 10 miles a day, 5 days a week. I'm an old guy, 80 years old, who has seen what's happening in America and wants to work with others to put our shoulder to the wheel and see if we can improve things. It'll take a year and 4 months before I am in Washington, D.C., and we'll have events in front of the U.S. Capitol and probably a few other places because there's plenty to talk about. At age 80, I have to pace myself each day when I'm walking. Not too fast, and normally not much more than 10 miles a day. My body and feet are still adjusting and slowly toughening up. I'm out about 330 miles so far. Walking 10 miles normally leaves me between about 4 and 5 hours each day, including breaks, to eat, drink, and sit for a few minutes. This leaves plenty of time to talk to the large number of American people along the way. So I would ask you to consider a central question. How well do you feel that those we have elected to represent our interests are doing on our behalf? How are they doing? Do you feel like you're being properly represented? In talking with Americans, I have yet to meet a single American who feels that a majority of those we have elected are properly doing their job on our behalf. And sadly, there's a direct relationship between a majority not providing us with proper representation and the division and downward path America is now on. This is why we must fix our democracy so that it properly represents the common interests of all American people. In Arizona, each of you will still soon have an opportunity to dramatically improve Arizona's political primary process to better serve your interests. The existing primary and general election process serves the interests of the major political party, but not the interests of Arizona's citizens. It divides us, excludes many of us from participating, and limits our choice of candidates. Our interests are different from those of the two major political parties. We benefit as citizens when we have a wide range of candidates to choose among, even though we are not going to like them all. We also benefit when all of us who are registered voters can help choose which candidates of any party should proceed to the general election. And we are more unified whenever whomever wins has the support of a majority of us rather than the support of only a smaller percentage of us. Let's discuss a simplified, specific, and controversial example. Our United States Constitution provides us with many rights. Among these are our Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. However, each of these rights is not absolute. Each right is balanced by a measure of responsibility. We have a right to bear arms, and we also have a responsibility to use these arms safely in ways that do not endanger the rights of others. We must safeguard our firearms so they do not mistakenly become available to young children who may unintentionally harm themselves or others. And we must exercise our right to bear arms responsibly in other ways as well. A majority of Americans are upset by the many mass shootings at schools and other public gatherings. Polls show that some 70 to 80% of us across ideologies agree with both our right to bear arms as well as the need for them to be kept and used responsibly. And for there to be reasonable restrictions placed on those who fail to meet those responsibilities. Yet not a single Republican senator will support meaningful measures in Congress to reflect the preferences of 70 to 80% of all Americans. Instead, they will only support innocuous measures that allow them to claim incremental progress and thereby kick the can down the road for more years without meaningful legislation. The reason they will not serve the interests of those who elected them on this issue is directly related to the way our primary and general election process is structured. Let me pose a question. Of all eligible voters in primary states, what percentage do you think on average will vote in the Republican and Democratic primaries? The answer, in the Republican primaries, about 10%, only 10% of all of us that are eligible will vote. In the Democratic primary, it's about 15 to 20%. So if you are a Republican U.S. Senator and you wish to qualify for the general election ballot, and if gun rights and restrictions is the only issue on the ballot, you must speak not to the preferences of 70 to 80% of all of those you will be representing, but instead only to the preferences of those 10% who will vote in the Republican primary. This is how the present primary process divides us, produces ever more extreme candidates for both parties, and does not reflect our preferences as citizens. The good news is that every state has the power to determine how its elections are run. So you in Arizona can change the process so it works for all citizens here instead of just benefit the largest political party. Part one is to level the signature requirements for any candidate from any party to get on the ballot. Make everybody equal. Part two is to get rid of the Republican and Democratic primaries and change the general election as they now exist in Arizona. Instead, put all candidates from all parties on a single open primary ballot, and then let 100% of Arizona's registered voters choose several to go to the general election and be on the ballot. Part three is, in the general election, use ranked choice voting to ensure that regardless of party, the candidate who wins is the party candidate that has a majority of all voters in response. 3 other states and over 50 cities across America have already shown the way. Maine has used ranked choice voting since 2016 in the November election, and the courts have upheld these rights for voters despite several attempts to overturn the law. Alaska voters in the 2020 general election approved an initiative to establish a nonpartisan single ballot for all candidates for any party primary election process or system. In the primary, Alaskan voters vote for one candidate in each race, and the top 4 candidates from each race go on to the general election. In that general election, voters use ranked choice voting to ensure that the winner among the top 4 candidates will be the one that has a majority of all voters in support. Nevada. And just last Tuesday, voters in Nevada approved the first of what must be the two voter approvals in two separate elections to establish a system in Nevada similar to Alaska's, except that the top 5 vote-getting candidates in those elections will go on to the general election. It's telling that many top politicians in both political parties oppose Nevada's ballot measure. They want to reduce, not increase, their political competition. They just want to stay in power. They are putting their interests ahead of the interests of those they were elected to represent. And that is not the job they were elected to do. It's representation malpractice. Arizona plans soon to have something similar to Nevada for voters to consider in an upcoming November election. So when many politicians oppose this measure in Arizona, call them out for not doing their job and vote for candidates who will represent the common good of all Arizonans. Kaz, Fernandez, Krista, Voter Choice Arizona will follow me and explain in a little more detail what's planned and how that will work in Arizona. Together we can do this, so spread the word, be advocates, be passionate, be patriots, proudly carry our American flag, and know that you stand up with many more of us for something much bigger and more important than just yourselves. Thank you.
Do you have business cards?
I do.
I'm intercepting you.
Hello, everyone. Come one, come all to hear about what ranked choice voting is. I know you're curious. I know pizza's on your mind, but democracy should also be on your mind. So come check it out. What is ranked choice voting? That may be something that you've never heard of before. It is a very simple change to the ballot that we have now. So instead of picking between two candidates, you are ranking your choice of candidates. So what this means is there's no more spoiler effect, there's no more picking between the lesser of two evils. You're not backed into a corner with the candidates that you have to choose from. There are no more candidates winning with a minority of the vote. They are winning with a statistical majority of the vote. So what this means is the person who's running the wealthiest campaign isn't going to be the winner by default. It takes away this deeply rooted power in the two-party system where we are, again, backed into a corner between two people that all they care about is getting reelected, and they don't quite care about actually representing their constituents. So, our group, Voter Choice Arizona, is trying to bring ranked choice voting to Arizona. But first, we need people to be familiar with it. We need people to know what ranked choice voting is and not be so scared of it. So that's why I appreciate any of you who are listening to this right now and learning, educating yourself about what ranked choice voting is. So, we are currently building our supporter list, getting more people familiar, and if you're interested in learning more, please come up and talk to us. Come talk to our lovely friends here with the clipboards. Give us a wave. Come talk to us, learn about ranked choice voting, and don't be so scared of it because we will get more representation across the board. You have more candidates that represent our actual interests instead of, well, at least I'm not the other guy. So come check it out. Thank you so much for listening, and I'm going to give it away to my friend Kaz here to tell you a little bit more about what our goals are and how you can help and how you can participate in bettering your own democracy. Thank you so much.
Come out of the shade, please. You're in the shade. Just one step. Perfect. That's it.
Okay. Might be out of frame on Rick's camera, but yeah. So I'm Kaz Fernandez. I'm the organizing director with Voter Choice Arizona. Just came on in the last month, but I've been volunteering with the organization for the last 2 years. And believe it or not, we've been doing this work for about 3 years now. And what is this work? Voter Choice Arizona is a group founded out of a bunch of volunteers, concerned citizens, donors, regular people. We're a grassroots organization that is working to help improve our democracy, give us more voice and more choice, as it says on my shirt. We're founded by a group, a national partner, Rank the Vote, that has helped guide us and created our strategy of growing our grassroots movement with. Okay, sorry, I'm terrible with the mic. Growing our grassroots movement by growing three big pillars: people, money, and endorsements. Right now, the biggest focus as a grassroots organization is people. We need to educate as many people as possible, talk to as many people as possible about ranked choice voting. Like many of the people here at this pizza festival, at this little plaza that we have here at Margaret T. Hance Park, most of you probably haven't heard of ranked choice voting before, and that's the biggest obstacle to us actually enacting ranked choice voting, especially with the ballot initiative. Most people have used, all of us have used the plurality voting for the entirety of the time that we've been voters, engaged citizens and voters in this country. So essentially, Voter Choice Arizona, we're out at events every Saturday, every Sunday, at concerts on Wednesday nights, Thursday nights, Friday nights, talking to people, answering questions. We do also have speaking engagements. If you have your legislative district party meeting or church meetings, any meetings that you think people should become more engaged, learn about why we see the continual issues with our electoral system. We're happy to come out, provide a trained speaker, someone more well trained than myself, talk about ranked choice voting, about our strategy to enact ranked choice voting and open primaries on the next ballot initiative in 2024, and exactly how everyone can get engaged, get involved, and start working to make this reform happen. To get on the ballot, we're gonna have a pretty tough time collecting. We'll just say 700,000 signatures to ensure that we have enough to blow past the requirement, so we get on the ballot. We don't get kicked off after challenging signatures and things like that. Right now, we're growing our supporter list. We want to reach 1% of the population of the state, and we're just going to make it in a nice round number. 75,000 individuals is what we're planning to get to, and we do that 20, 50, 100 names at a time at events like this, talking to people in crowds, waiting in line to enjoy some delicious pizza. So the path forward. Voter Choice Arizona, like I said, we've been doing this work for 3 years. We've been getting legal guidance. We've been getting, we've got polling that's very favorable. It seems like Arizonans do dislike the current system, do feel unrepresented. Whether you're a part of the two major parties or an independent, which a third of the state's population is independent. That's the portion that is growing. All the other two major parties are shrinking in the state. No one feels like our elected leaders are doing their jobs and are working to improve our state, improve our nation, improve our democracy. So Voter Choice Arizona is going to get on the 2024 ballot, pass an initiative with 50% plus one of the vote. Fortunately, we have that available to us. We don't have to just wait on the legislature to make these changes themselves. They are probably pretty disincentivized in doing that because that's how they've already been elected. They've wanted the current system. They are fine if it is broken. Yeah, I guess that's all. If anyone has any questions, all of our volunteers here with clipboards, with Ask Me About Ranked Choice Voting t-shirts, are happy to answer questions, or I can answer questions. We can do it on Instagram Live, or come up to the table and ask a question if you'd like an answer on it. What our strategy is, what ranked choice voting is, why open primaries can actually improve representation and prevent extremist candidates from making it through the primary into the general election, where good candidates are threatened and good candidates are oftentimes not even on the ballot, which is why it causes a race to the bottom. So if you have any questions on any of that, please feel free to come forward or ask us some questions on Instagram, and I'll check my phone to see if anyone's asking questions on Instagram. Thank you.